And good day everybody, David Cross. I am going to start with our third set of videos, which will be the creation of a DNS appliance and a DHCP appliance, which we will then use to configure the DNS domain name services in IPControl. So at this point, we have built our IPControl Executive, which is the management station that will be used to configure and manage DNS and DHCP. And we've also created the Sapphire Appliance for the cloud automation, which introduces Node-RED and some workflow capabilities for API integration. So the DNS DHCP appliance is a relatively simple process, similar to the other domains. It uses a virtual disk, an OVA, and a VMDK that we provide, and we're going to simply drag this uh, into the creation of the appliance and proceed from there to build the image. Now, unlike the systems previously, the name is VMDNS1, unlike the systems where we built the executive and the cloud automation, we do not require a ISO to be mounted on the DNS appliance. The operating system has everything necessary to build the appliance and the IPControl agent. So we'll leave this one as power on automatically and go ahead and hit next. Actually, let's go back because we do want to change perhaps the settings, at least I do. And I'm going to go ahead and complete this. And we'll give this just a moment to build. Okay, and then as that completes, I'm going to go back in and edit my configuration. I'm going to change the CPUs in memory. This image is using the Sapphire VX10, 8 CPUs, 8 cores. I don't have that much memory in my test system, so I'm going to leave it at this for 2 processors. In your memory or in your virtual interfaces, go ahead and again keep these connected, and then when you build the Sapphire image, you'll have the ability to enable or disable networking on the interface from there. So we'll go ahead and power that on. And I'm not going to have a graphical shell, so I'll just keep this console here. And we should boot right into the configuration screen where we'll provide the IP address, the host name, and configure the type. So the first option here, as we had done with the previous videos, is a selection of the type of appliance. Let me back out here. So I want to hit number 1. And it's actually not going to let us do this. So it'll tell us if we want to do any other appliance other than the Sapphire without the ISO, it's going to require us to reboot. So we'll just have to continue with this. The IP4 protocol, we're going to go ahead and keep that enabled. And we're going to go ahead and provide a name for this. And we're going to call this home local. The mask is correct. The IP address I have set up for this is 57. Keep it on the same subnet. The gateway is correct, and then I'm going to have this point to another system. Time server. Now, important to note here is the IPControl executive. I'm going to have this point to the system that we created. The appliance will register with the IPControl executive when it's configured, and it will also consume a virtual image license. So in IPControl, there is a key that controls how many appliances are enabled, and it will consume one of those as it connects in the system. So the time zone will continue. And I'm going to leave the other defaults here and go ahead and proceed with the setup. As soon as this is complete, it's going to ask us to reboot. And on that reboot, it should then power up and be configured to communicate on the network. It registers with IPControl, and then we can proceed with registering it in IPControl to define its service and functionality. Okay, and we should have a completed system now. It should take us into the login prompt and IP control. And from there, as in with any other user, we can proceed with other configurations if you wish, such as SSH, timeout windows, other security features and capabilities, anycast, things like that. We're not going to proceed with that, but after this setup here, we're going to do one other step, and that would be the registering of the appliance and its services in IP control so that you would see and have access to the dashboard and also to auto-create the DNS DHCP servers. So this will take just 1 second. And for this, you'll need to have your IP control executive and a login set up with access to the system. And if you're following our videos, you should be at a blank database at this time, and we'll start from this point forward. So give this one more minute here. By default, there is an ISC bind configuration for caching only. It does not have the serve anything, and from DHCP, it is not enabled by default, so you don't have to worry about it handing out addresses. So as you log into IP control, you should be logged in as INC admin or equivalent master equivalent. And in the tools appliance definition menu is where we'll define the appliance. So in this particular case, we're only defining the DNS or DHCP appliances in this screen. The executive, the cloud automation, those are defined basically inherently. We don't define them as a Sapphire appliance per se here from a service management. So we're going to do DNS1.com.local. The management IP address we're going to keep as the individual IP we assigned to it, which was 57. However, all of the appliances have 4 interfaces. You can determine if a specific interface provides management, and then the services operate off a separate interface in order to control access to the system. That's entirely possible. And this video will not cover this entirely, but it does have the ability to define whether it's a standard high availability, or virtual, which we'll select virtual. When we select DNS as a server type, it will auto-populate whatever IP address is defined in management. I'm going to assume the same IP. You can also provide a DNS v6 address if you have one. I'm going to skip that process. And for DHCP, I'm going to go ahead and use the same for the service there. And we're just going to assume that everything's running off this one device. Now, upon saving this, the key to noting is the creation of the servers. So this is where it's going to create a Sapphire DNS appliance. It should use the default, which is the binds 911 within IPcontrol 10.0, or bind 912 when we get into 11.0. And it has then also all of the auto-created start-stop scripts and effectively the defaults for the Sapphire appliance. So it's taking care of that function for us. And if we look under the DHCP functionality, it's done the same for us with that same device, same IP, using this as the latest DHCP for that version of IP control. All right, so I'm going to conclude this video at that point. We now have basically a functional DNS. And the last thing I guess I will say here is under the reports, it's registering with the system, should show you the IP control, what services are running and operational. DHCP is not functional at this time, but if it were, it would show us the primary and failover pairs. And then from here also, you would have other details like it started or stopped, disconnected, any other type of status from here that you can then monitor and search filter from. And then also you have your status in terms of a dashboard. From here, just a couple key notes with this is you can also save that to your portal if you're interested in looking at this screen every time you log in or want to be able to quickly access that information. Okay, so that is the end of this video, and we'll pick up on the next part of the video and proceed with some of the other configurations for the DNS, the domains, and some basic IP address management. Take care.